Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today we're going over my Rilldo build, and towards the end of the half of the video, we'll be going over a how to play guide over on Untap. So if you want to see how the deck curves out, make sure to stick around for that. We'll go over the build quickly here today because I did just cover what all the cards do in last week's video where I covered the Rilldo archetype, and this is the way that I chose to build it. I think there are many ways you can go about this. This is a non-baby focused version of the deck. This is more so revolving around the new cards in set 17, but I do think you can definitely build it with a focus on older red baby support. But yeah, I'll show you guys what I have today. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video, and if you guys want to help support the channel, many ways down in the description to do so. But if you want to buy or pre-order any of the cards talk about in today's video, use my link to TCG Player. It really does help out a lot. So let's get started with the leader here. And like I've said in the past, I do think this is one of the better gimmicky decks they've made, and we'll talk about why. So we have both sides of the leader. When you attack, you get to play a 1-drop machine mutant from your hand. There's plenty in the deck that we'll go over. On the unawakened side, you can awaken, release 4 or less, or if you have a Super Sigma on board and place 3 cards from under it under your leader, then you untap one, you draw one, and then you take life until you have 6 left. So very convoluted awakening condition, which is quite possibly going to hold this leader back in a lot of ways. And I don't think you have to build a deck using this alternate awakening condition. You can probably just play the 4 life awaken, but this build I do choose to use it, and it works out pretty decently. I'll explain it more when we get into the cards. Then we have the awakened side of the leader. When you activate a evolve or unit absorb skill, you can draw a card and then activate battle once per turn. Basically take a card from under this guy, put it in the drop area, and you can get a plus 5k for a battle, which is good. I mean, it turns those cards under your leader into 5k combos, so not bad at all. So let's get into the main board. 4 copies of Nezzy, 3 copies of Ribbit, and 3 copies of Bizu. So on play, these all search each other. Notice they're all 1-drop machine mutants. Your leader can play them for free. So it almost kind of sucks going first because you're not able to get that value from your leader by playing a guy, but it's still okay going first because you'll typically play Nezzy, search for your appropriate robot, and then the next turn you can play the other robot, search for the robot that you're missing, and then you have the unit absorb on Nezzy, which plays your Super Sigma. So you are going to be able to awaken most turn 2s as long as you can see any of these robots. So you're basically playing 4, 7, 10 starters that you want to see in your turn 1. As long as you see any of these, you can get to Nezzy and then do your unit absorb stuff, which is good. I'm playing 3 and 3 of Bizu and Ribbit. I kind of wanted to play 2 and 2, but they are always free 1-drops to play with your leader, so you want to make sure you have those, and they always replace themselves. So I think 3 and 3 is okay here. But I am playing 2 Super Sigma. So this is kind of the logic of from Yu-Gi-Oh! It's called a Garnet, but it's basically a card you don't want to draw, so we can refer to it as a Garnet here. Yeah, we don't want to draw Super Sigma. We want to play 2 though because we want to fetch it from our deck, and we don't want our 1 copy get stuck in our life. So that's the main reason we're playing 2 copies. And yeah, Nezzy is going to unit absorb into Super Sigma from your deck on most turn 2s, and then you can awaken turn 2. But sometimes I actually just keep this guy on board since he has barrier, and I hold my awaken to turn 3. And I can explain a little bit more about that when we get into the how to play guide. But anyways, then we have 4 copies of General Rilldo Combination Ready. So the way this deck curves out, this unit absorb ability is not the most useful. I mean, you will use it, don't get me wrong, but it's very awkward because your energy is pretty much all claimed until turn 4. Like, your energy is spoken for the first 3 turns. So when you play him though, look at top 5, add any machine mutant, which is very nice. And then I'm playing 2 copies of Rilldo Battle on Planet M2. Same unit absorb, except he is an on-play draw one. So I wanted to have 4 copies of the one that finds machine mutants, just so I can find certain pieces for what I'm trying to do. Then we have 4 copies of Hyper Meta Rilldo Combined Power. So believe it or not, even though that you can unit absorb this guy from your deck, you actually want to draw him more often than not because he's a 1 energy evolve over Super Sigma. So once you turn 2 Super Sigma, you're going to detach all the cards to put him under your leader to awaken, and then you're going to want to evolve this guy for 1 to get your awaken side leader's draw ability. So I end up doing that more so than I actually unit absorb. Then we have 2 copies of General Evolved Hyper Meta Rilldo. So another 5-drop you can unit absorb into. So this would be the one guy you want to go into with Battle on Planet M2 or Combination Ready. He comes down, minus everything by 10k, and then when he swings, you can kill something with 10k or less. So he helps you deal with wide boards, especially if they're smaller in power. So he's pretty nice for that. Then we have 3 copies of Meta Rilldo Ascended General and 2 copies of Meta Rilldo Form Perfected. So Form Perfected is one of our boss monster / win conditions. It comes down, you get rid of a planet M2, which we'll see in a second, and then you draw 2, you minus your opponent's leader by 5k. So you're getting a similar effect to like the Vegeta SCR that King Piccolo is now playing, and of course U7 Goku's playing. but it's very, very vulnerable with no deflect, no barrier. So it is going to be somewhat tough to use this, especially against green and blue. Blue, actually, it won't be so bad. Like, you'll have to pitch a few cards to play it if they want to God Sealing this, but it only costs 1, so you'll have more energy to play it. But green, it's going to be tough because, you know, they can just freeze a charismatic this. You can actually stop freeze a charismatic, though, which is really, really nice. And then we have Meta Rilldo Ascended General. So this is the safer one because it has barrier. It doesn't have deflect, but still, I mean, it only costs 1 to evolve, which is fine. And then you actually get that pseudo Sin secret rare effect, where you can attach a material to restand him and he'll lose 5k, but he's a blocker, so that's great. But yeah, it's only going to be used, I believe, like twice normally, because you're only going to normally have 2 materials under him anyway, but still pretty solid. Next up, we have 4 copies of Baby Juvenile Parasite. So this is the unison coming out with the deck. I'm not necessarily 100% sure this is the best unison to play, but I am playing it for now. It offers you spot removal, it has protection of its own for its markers, and it draws cards, which are all great things for sure. It does swing for 20k, but it's 10k during your opponent's turn, so it's a little bit vulnerable. But the main reason I'm trying it out right now is because 1, it's coming on set 17, and 2, it does draw you cards. This leader, this deck does not blow up its hand size like crazy. It keeps a fine, like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 card hand size on average. But yeah, it's not crazy like a lot of modern decks. So having a unison that draws cards really nice. But I mean, Jiren unison might just be the best 3-cost unison you should be playing, especially depending on format. That can impact what you want to play here as well. 4 copies of Videl, playing a 3-cost unison, of course, playing Videl. 2 copies of Mechanized Planet. Now this card counts as Planet M2. Hyper Meta Rilldo Combined Power can play it when you play him. And this is like a free 5k combo during both players' turns. So that's really, really good. Also draws 2 and pitches 1 when you play it. Then we have 4 copies of Raditz Sane Youth, just best red super combo you can play. 4, Testing the Opposition. This card is becoming more and more of a 4 of in most red decks, especially King Piccolo. I can totally see 3 though. I'm not playing other negates at the moment, like Wolfang Fist or Violent Rays or anything like that, but I could definitely see main deck teching Violent Rays, maybe chopping Testing down to 3. 3 copies of Vegeta Resolve Renewed. So this is what I was talking about before, where you can stop something like Frieza Charismatic Villain, but you can also stop, of course, your opponent's floodgates like Riposte, like Oceanus. This card is just too good. Your turn 4 is actually very open as well, so this is going to be pretty big for going for the game, this Vegeta Resolve Renewed. Then we have 1 copy of Fighting Against Fates, 1 copy of Champa, and 1 copy of Pan. Your drop area can be important sometimes, so you want to make sure you overwhelm very carefully. Champa, it's red, you can always charge it if you need to. And then Pan, I think this is the best SCR for this deck. It could also be Kai, though. Kai is definitely a really solid option here. Main reason I'm not playing the new Vegeta SCR is because our turn 4, we're still spending energy to set up our boss monsters. So I want to have an SCR that's free or very, very cheap. So that could be Pan, that could be Heroine's Lineage, that could be Supreme Kai of Time, maybe a few others here or there. Maybe even the red-blue SCR, the female Saiyan SCR, that could be good as well. But anyways, that's the list, guys. Let's go and check out how the deck curves out. All right, guys, I'm here on Untapped to show you guys a bit of how the deck curves out. So we're going to assume I'm going first, and we'll assume that I'm playing against something mid-rangey like a Soul Striker, and I'll just simulate taking some damage. So here, this is a pretty solid opening hand. You definitely want to start with Nezzy. That's probably your best turn 1 play. And then having a copy of Combination Ready Rilldo is also pretty solid. In this particular opening hand, I'd probably charge this Meta Rilldo because he's really not doing anything until turn 4, and we're going first, so we can't use our leader's attacking auto. So what I would do here is play Nezzy, and getting that deck search is so important. So he searches for Bizu, so we're going to look through our deck. And now when you're looking through your deck, you want to make sure you're seeing your other searchable cards, because there are quite a few cards in this deck we don't want to draw. We don't want to draw Mechanized Planet, but we want to make sure it's in the deck for when we use our effect to play it. We also want to make sure Super Sigma's in our deck. So right now we have 1 copy in the deck. The other copy must be in our life. So we're searching for Bizu. So we will grab this guy. And that's pretty much going to conclude our turn. So it goes to our opponent. Let's just say they attack us once. They charge an energy, attack, we take a damage, comes back to our turn, right? So we'll draw. We'll untap. For charging, I mean, since I have my Unison, I don't want to charge Videl. But if I didn't have my Unison, I could charge Videl. Could maybe charge Testing the Opposition. Kind of depends on matchup, but let's just say in this case we'll charge this. We have 3 more copies, so that's not too bad either. All right, so in this particular order, you can do things a fair amount of ways. I can just hard play Bizu, and he is going to search for my Ribbit. So I'll find card. Now I know the contents of my deck. So we can go about our turn 2 a couple different ways here. So if I wanted to awaken this turn, I can definitely Unabsorb into Super Sigma, right? Because Nezzy, all he wants is a Bizu and a Ribbit in my hand and or battle area. And my leader, I can swing with it to play Ribbit for free. So I'm going to search, find a Nezzy. And I don't really care about having this extra Nezzy in my hand. I mean, I could Union Absorb it again, possibly later in the game. But the main reason I'm doing this is because it's free, gets Ribbit on the board, and then I get to, you know, basically keep my hand size at 6. Because when I use the Union Absorb here, for one, I'm going to use the Ribbit for my board and not for my hand. So I'm going to keep my hand size as big as I possibly can. I'm going to search, and I know that I have the Super Sigma in my deck. So that's going to go here. Nice thing about Super Sigma is he also comes in, draws a card, and gives everything on the board minus 10k, which is kind of cool because, you know, they have like a 1-drop from turn 1. That's like a thing there. And he has the Activate Battle effect to come into play, which could lead to some battle tricks of like giving the entire board minus 10 if your opponent's going for game. I'll be honest though, probably going to be pretty tough to set up, but I mean, it's definitely a possibility. So yeah, we have Super Sigma in play. He's got Barrier and Blocker, so in most scenarios, he's going to be very, very safe to leave on board. Now, I don't really want to Awaken here for the most part, but I could if I had Hyper Rilldo in my hand. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab the card from my deck real quick just to show you what I'm talking about. So if I had, where is this guy? If I had Hyper Rilldo here in my hand, let's just say I threw back, I don't know, this Union Absorb Rilldo. I could Awaken here, and I'll just do that now for the sake of it. I will activate my Awaken, so 1, 2, and 3 are going to go under my leader. I'm going to take life down to 6. I'm going to untap an energy, and I'm going to draw a card. So by doing that, I can now evolve my Hyper Rilldo into, over my Super Sigma rather. And now I have 2 proccing autos. I have my Hyper Rilldo, which when he's played, I can play Planet M2 from the deck. And then I have my leader. Since I activated Evolve, I can draw a card. So I want to grab the field from my deck first to make sure I don't accidentally draw into it. And I can still stack the order of my autos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate Mechanized Planet to draw 2 and then discard a card. I think in this case, I'll pitch an extra copy of the Unison, and then my leader will draw 1 for that auto. So I'm at a pretty nice 10 cards in hand on turn 2 with a fairly decent board. I mean, again, free 5k combo every single turn with Mechanized Planet. I have my Hyper Meta Rilldo attacking for 25 or blocking, which is dope. And then I have my Activate Battle comboing for 5k if I need to do that. Nice thing too is I don't have my Unison in play yet, so if my opponent wants to attack, they have to attack my leader. But the problem is, though, I'm now 15k, so if they're like a 10k leader, I won't be taking damage from my life. And I definitely want to be at most 5 life, so this way at least my testing the ops are live when I need them. And then once I test in the op, my super combos will then be live after that. So that is a little tricky. That's why I might not have always Awakened on this turn 2, but especially if I didn't have Hyper Rilldo, right? But in this case, I just showed you guys turn 2 Awaken. I have Hyper Rilldo, so in this case, might as well, I guess. So anyways, we're going to pass it back to our opponent. Let's just say they do a damage to us somehow. I don't want to use my Activate Battle because I want to go to 5. So I'll untap, and then in this case, I don't want to charge Ascended General because I'm getting close to actually playing him. I could definitely charge an extra copy of Nezzy. Ideally, probably want to charge something without combo power, but in this hand, I mean, it's all pretty good. So we'll charge this. And then this is a good time to play our Unison down. So I know I put it in an awkward area, but I don't want to move everything around. So we'll +1 to hopefully remove something on our opponent's board. That'll also draw us a card, which is, again, great for keeping our hand size up. Now our Videls are alive. And that's the great thing about playing a turn 3 Unison in this deck as well, is that you're playing the best red counterplay. I mean, Videl is just usually better than Yamcha. And the only thing that sucks about it is we're tapped out on turn 3, so we can't generate value off of our leader's auto to draw when we activate Evolve or Union. But that's generally okay. I mean, our Unison draws us cards anyway, and then next turn we'll be able to +1 this and Evolve, so that's good. So yeah, I mean, here I can attack with my leader. I can play Combination Ready, search top 5. In this case, I'll probably go ahead and grab this Rilldo. He's just simple draw 1 plus the Union Absorb ability. So yeah, just giving this guy's Union Absorb a read. We can absorb a Super Sigma from a battle area or drop area, so we can use Hyper Rilldo's effect to put it in the drop if we want. And then we can play a 5-cost Rilldo from our deck or hand. So yeah, the fact that it costs 2, I mean, you guys saw the curve already. It doesn't necessarily fit pretty well into the first 3 turns, but it is very usable on turn 4. So let's go back to our opponent's turn. Again, we're not really giving them anything to attack here. They could attack our Unison. Let's say we absorb something with our Unison. We can protect a marker there. I don't know. Maybe they attacked our leader again. Who knows, right? So we're taking that. Let's untap. Let's go to turn 4. And now this is where we're going for the win. And this is actually where our plays get a lot more freestyle and a lot cheaper, which is really cool. So we can always +1 our unison, draw a card, absorb something. That's great, especially if they have like a blocker, let's just say. In this particular hand, we don't have Meta Rilldo form perfected, but I'm going to grab it from the deck just to show you guys that it's a very, very valid option for this turn, right? So we can definitely go into either of the Meta Rildos, and it really just depends on the scenario, right? So form perfected, we could play him, give our opponent's leader -5. If we're trying to push damage, if they're low on life at this point, we could just you know, really apply pressure with that. Drawing 2 cards, although giving up our mechanized planet is not super ideal. This is where you kind of want to have the extra copy in your hand to pitch instead of losing it from your board. But I mean, still, I mean, this could board wipe, this can go in for big double strike. And if you want to be more defensive, of course, we can set up Ascended General, which is going to be you know, a huge blocker going into our opponent's turn. We could also Union Absorb if we got the Super Sigma in the drop area. We could go into a card like the other 5-drop Meta Rilldo that minus everything by 10 and then pops a 10k or less. So we have a lot of options there. But whatever we do, right? Let's say we go into Form Perfected, we're really pushing for game. So we're going to pay a red here. We're going to pitch something we can't really use. In this case, it all has combo power, but let's just pitch, I don't know, extra copy of Nezi, I guess. So actually, sorry, I evolved that over the wrong one. That goes over here. So we do that, we draw a card off a leader, so it replaces the card we pitched off Meta Rilldo, which is great. And yeah, now our opponent's leader is 10k if they're awakened. This hand in particular, we could swing with our leader to our opponent's 10 or 5k. We could play Nezi for free, you know, play another Super Sigma if we had one in the drop or in the deck. That's a whole option there, considering we have 3 energy open. And we always have an energy open, at least one, for our Vegeta Resolve Renewed counterplay to stop any floodgate, stop any counterplay that is applicable to this. That's a really great option there. So I mean, the deck makes a lot of sense in that it curves out pretty nicely. Again, that turn 3 is a little awkward. You can always hold your Awaken for turn 3, but I mean, you're gonna generally end up doing the same thing you did on turn 2, which is evolving Hyper Meta Rilldo and just getting that leader draw. But if the barrier guy is safer for an extra turn, then maybe, yeah, you do hold your Awaken to turn 3 and then you do it that way, right? But yeah, I mean, that's the general first 4 turns of the deck, and then once you get to turn 4 and beyond, you're just making as many plays as you can to apply pressure. But anyways, this is how I've been playing the deck. Again, of course, you can play a more baby focused version of the deck, and that could be a pretty interesting sort of like wombo combo aggro strategy. But I don't know, I think this is pretty cool. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this deck and this play guide, and I'll see you in the next video.